All right, good morning. Kalimera. I want to welcome our visitors today. If you're new to our community and would like to join our parish family, I'll introduce a couple greeters at the end who can connect you to our church. We have a couple of announcements today. Tomorrow evening, we're having a meeting of ministry heads. That will be at 6:30 tomorrow in person in the Carmula Center. And then next Sunday, we're having a meeting with the altar boys, and we're having the we'll have our resuming of our men's group. For those who don't know what our men's group is, it's guys who meet once a month in the Carmula Center at 5 o'clock on a Sunday. We walk to a nearby restaurant, get some food, come back here, and just talk about life. Just guys hanging out, talking about Orthodoxy, which is awesome. Very low key. You come 1 month, you don't come 1 month. We don't keep attendance. Usually get about 20, 25 guys, kind of free-flowing forum. It's a nice thing. It's a nice fellowship for guys. So that's starting next Sunday, open to all guys in our parish. Also open to your guy friends that aren't Orthodox, just want to come and hang out and talk about life. As I said a moment ago, tomorrow night is the meeting of our ministry heads. And we got lots of ministries here. You can see all of them on the back. And if you don't know what a ministry is, grab one of the welcome packets that's up here, and not only we have the list of the ministry heads, but we have a definition of what the ministry is. The other night, we had our young adult ministry, which meets once a month. We had 38 young adults here on Thursday night, from 6:30 to 9. It was really awesome. I mean, it was a fun gathering, and for me as a priest, it was just awesome to see that many young adults come out on a weeknight. The Father John, thank God, is still doing his Bible study every Tuesday night. The Zaharias room is full of people, and before the Bible study, he's got an inquirer's kind of class if people want to come and ask questions about Orthodoxy. This is all new to you. He does that on Tuesdays, around 5:30. And next month, September 9th, I'm starting the Orthodoxy 101 class. It's a 4-week catechism class in the church. Again, we got lots of people here who are new to this. If you want to come and learn more about our faith, please mark your calendar beginning September 9th, those 4 Mondays. So we got lots of different ministries, and these are good. But the purpose of each ministry is to support one center, and that center is Jesus Christ. One cannot separate ministry from Christ because we belong to Christ. So someone may say, I sing in the choir, but it's like I sing in the choir for Christ. Or I serve in the Philoptochos, but I serve in the Philoptochos for Christ. There's no ministry that's separated from the one central thing we do here, which is worship Christ. We belong to him. So we need to come to a place where we say to ourselves, I belong to Christ. Imagine every morning getting up, and the first thing you say as you get up in bed is, I belong to Christ. Imagine if you said that as you got in the car to go somewhere, I belong to Christ. Or as you start your class at school, I belong to Christ. Or you sit at your desk to begin your day, I belong to Christ. Or you go shopping and you say, I belong to Christ. Or the best scenario, you're about to start an argument with someone, or say a snippy word with someone, and you say, I belong to Christ before I start that argument. Either we belong or we don't. Either he's at the center or he isn't. It's that simple. As I said a couple weeks ago, either the light's on or it's off. There's no light half on. It's a personal choice. We belong to him or we don't. He's at the center or he isn't. And that's the lesson of the epistle reading. St. Paul was frustrated as he was ministering to the Corinthians, that they had Corinthians saying, I belong to Apollos and I belong to Cephas. And he's like, we all belong to Christ. So yes, we have little allegiances here in our ministries, but those ministries lead back to Christ. In the gospel lesson, it's the well-known miracle of the blessing of the 5 loaves and 2 fish, and feeding 5,000 men plus women and children. So let's conservatively say that it was 15,000 people. and they were fed with 5 loaves and 2 fish, eating to the point where they were stuffed and uncomfortable. Jesus uses the word in the gospel, hortastisan, which means so full to the point that you are sick from eating so much. That's how much he multiplied all these 5 loaves and fish, with 12 baskets of leftovers taken up. And the Greek word there is kophinos, which is actually the word for coffin. And in the ancient world, a coffin was like the kuvuklion, some large thing. And there were 12 of those filled with the leftovers. So everyone ate to the point of feeling sick, and there were 12 large containers, if you will, filled with the leftovers. That's how big this miracle was. And the whole thing tilted on someone or a couple of people giving up all they had and Christ doing something with that. Now we know from math class that 0 times anything is 0. So in order to multiply something, there has to be something to multiply. And so when we offer up something to Christ, as someone did in this miracle, he can do something amazing with that. We were supposed to have a town hall meeting today with a professional fundraiser that we were going to engage. And we figured out a few weeks ago that that relationship was not going to work. And so the little group that is working on this project is going back to the drawing board. That's why we're not having a meeting today, as advertised in the messenger. Today, as you see, our children are beginning Sunday school in a rundown building where we aren't allowed to hang an icon. We owe them better than that. We owe ourselves better than that. We owe Christ because if we truly belong to him, then we want to offer what he has first given us back to him so he can multiply it. This is not a dream or a fantasy or a reckless move. It is a sacred calling. We can't properly feed all of the men, women, and children in this church because the church isn't big enough. Probably 60% of the people who are here today are involved in Sunday school, so they weren't here. I'm guessing there was a large number of people in the hall, because when I was giving communion, when we got through all the kids, then there was a whole group of other people, and then I said, oh, we're finally in the first row, we're finally back into the church. So I'm guessing there was probably a large group of people in the hall who won't be there very long because no one wants to worship in a hall. We want to worship in the church. We can't properly accommodate all of our ministries, not because we lack space, but because we've sold that space to others where Christ is not at the center of what they do. It's past time to unite ourselves behind Christ here 7 days a week. It's time to have a proper ministry center where we can have an icon in every room, where our teachers can make their classroom spaces that are welcoming and not trashy as they are today, where kids can learn in a place that feels like theirs, where all of our ministries enjoy space that is ours, that is clean and spacious. It is time to have more space in the church so that everyone can gather with one voice and one heart in one building. The call went out to the crowds in the gospel lesson, who has something to offer? And someone offered sacrificially, and what they offered was blessed exponentially. Just about every day here, there is a crisis. Someone needs prayer. Someone needs counsel. Someone is in the hospital. And on days when there aren't crises, there are services, ministries, opportunities to share the gospel, and these things require preparation. The church is about relationships, and relationships take time. Jesus didn't want to send the crowd away because of food. The gospel says he wasn't even preaching to them entirely. He was healing them and having compassion on them. He wanted them to stay near him. He wanted the food issues solved so he could continue healing. The relationship part of the ministry I'm doing is very fulfilling. The opportunity to listen to problems, to offer spiritual counsel, to inspire and encourage others to grow toward Christ. These are the things that inspire me. I'm not a fundraiser. I'm a priest. We already have offered lots of explanation of our building project, what it is and why we need it. And we will offer a lot more information and explanation in the coming months. why a ministry center and an expanded church are crucial for our ability to proclaim the gospel going forward in this parish. But there will come a time when the same question is asked that was asked of the crowds in the gospel: who has something to offer, and what will that be? It has been suggested that the priest will have to be the one closing the deal with future donors. Imagine if Jesus had to canvass the entire crowd of 15,000 people to find food before he preached or before he healed. He would never have gotten to preaching or healing. And that's what his role was, to preach the gospel and heal the sick. There isn't time to shut down the ministries of the church and take a year off to focus on fundraising. The focus must remain on Christ. The price tag to do everything that needs to be done here, create a ministry center, expand the church, give the hall a needed update, and give a facelift to our grounds, is $6 million. You've had the opportunity to see plans, and there will be many more opportunities to sit in small groups and talk about this. I'm happy to speak to anyone individually about this as well. The focus must remain on Christ. But we will need people to step up and offer their loaves and fish. And one thing I promise you is that when you offer to the Lord, he multiplies what you offer on others, and he multiplies it back on you. It took faith for one person out of 15,000 to offer up all the food he had. But look what happened. He or she, whoever it was, went away stuffed, just like everyone else. They didn't lose anything because they offered sacrificially. I belong to Christ. I'm pretty sure I don't say that enough. But when we say it regularly, then the rest of the stuff falls into place. If I belong to Christ, if we belong to Christ, and if this becomes the rallying cry for our parish, then all the rest of this will fall into place. So I ask you rhetorically, to whom do you belong? Amen.